Welcome to the Wealthy in Pajamas podcast, where it's not all about the money, but it's not about the money. I'm your host, Sonia Highfield, the Wealth Expansion Coach, here to help creatives find their real version of wealth, build profitable businesses, and be happy, healthy humans. Hi, everyone. Welcome to today's interview episode with Rosemary Dede. I'm so excited to have you. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me, Sonia. I'm super excited.
Yeah, so I will share your background, your bio with anyone who isn't familiar with you. And I think that my audience is really going to enjoy you and your perspective because we have a lot of overlap. And yeah, let me introduce you formally. So Rosemary is a holistic business coach, passionate about helping female entrepreneurs redefine success on their own terms. She believes in creating businesses that align with personal lifestyles, values, and visions. She's a homeschooling mother of 3 and doesn't subscribe to the myth of work-life balance. Instead, she focuses on work-life harmony, which I can't wait to talk about. And this is really the principle at the heart of her coaching practice and personal life. Rosemary also is the host of the Thriving on Purpose podcast, so y'all go check that out. Over there, she shares actionable insights, real-life stories, and expert interviews to inspire female entrepreneurs to create intentional, values-driven businesses and lives. Woohoo! All the things that I absolutely love.
Yay.
So I'd love to start off and ask you, what does wealth mean to you?
Yeah, I love that question because my podcast, Thriving on Purpose, which has recently been rebranded, I have a similar question that I ask at the end of the podcast, which is, what does it mean to thrive on purpose? And I think wealth means for me to thrive on purpose and to be intentional with your life and to be um, content in all aspects of your life, to really fully thrive. Yeah, that's what wealth means to me.
I love that. Yeah. So I always share that the original definition of wealth was the condition of well-being.
Mm.
And so thinking about, yeah, well-being in like every area of life, business, all the things, I think similar vibe, right? Like thriving, well-being, and it's such a personal thing, right?
Yeah.
So, I would love to hear a little bit about how you landed where you are now as a coach. What was your journey to get here?
Yeah, very interesting. And I think a lot of your listeners might relate. It wasn't like a straight path. I don't know, many entrepreneurs were like, I just woke up one day and I always knew I was going to do this. And then I did it.
Yeah,
It's
never.
always like, oh, was somewhere along the way. So my background is in actually international business communication. So I've always kind of been inclined to business and working with people. I also have a degree in tourism management and recreation. So I always loved traveling and being around people from multiple backgrounds and all of that. But what I also notice in my personality is that I am that type of friend that people come to and share all their struggles, like, oh my God, Rose, this happened to me. And what do you think? And even at work, in my 9 to 5 in the past, I was that colleague that would empower, would motivate, and would cheer them on. I've always been this natural cheerleader. So I think coaching has always been a thing I've always done without knowing. But the where how I got to where I am right now is in 2016 when I got my second child, 2016 when I got my first child, sorry. I started thinking about, okay, what do I want my life to look like 5 years from now, 10 years from now? And I was in a corporate career, and I knew that, okay, I have a good job, but I'm not creating an impact. It's a great job, but I'm not changing anybody's life. And I knew I loved traveling, and I knew I loved entrepreneurship and being around women, but I just didn't know what I wanted to do. So I did a self-discovery on myself, trying to find out what are things that people do that I enjoy? So I love traveling. What could someone do that enjoys traveling? Could I be a travel agent? I knew I didn't want to be an air, stewardess or something like that. So I thought retreats, that's something really nice, bringing women together, not just to discover, be like a tour guide, but I wanted to walk them through a certain transformation and guide them, or at least facilitate that. And so I started looking into that world a little bit, and everything kind of always pointed me towards coaching. I also did Myers-Briggs test and strengths finders and all those things, and they always pointed me towards sage, a teacher, coach, all these things. And I was like, okay, something is pointing me in a certain direction. So I created a community called She Tribe, bringing women, like-minded women together, because I always was the odd one out, even, in my group of friends, not like different in a way that I always went for things I believed in and I wasn't afraid to take risks. So in 2012, 2013, for instance, I left my 9 to 5 to move to Ghana all of a sudden for, just because I could. I was like, why not? I'm young, I don't have kids, and I want to move abroad to discover more about my roots. And if it works out, great. If it doesn't, it stands nice on my resume. So I'm that type of person, or that's how people saw me. And in my group of friends, most people wouldn't do such a thing. You'll be like, why would you do such a crazy thing? Pack your bags and leave. And so starting a business whilst being in college as well. And so knowing that, I knew that I wasn't alone. There must be other women like me. And so I decided to bring together a community of women who are like, you know what, go-getters, but also we dare to be different and go for our dreams and do things differently. And we also want to thrive in all aspects of our lives because we deserve it. And so it started with, brunches and events, face-to-face events, and with retreats as well, and evolved into coaching when COVID hit. We moved a lot online, everything online. And I initially didn't think it would last, but I saw there was a need, for connection and for sharing and advice. And then I thought, okay, there's something in this. Maybe I should structure this coaching, I should learn about it. And so I got a course, I got a coach and learned, how do you create, a program where you can walk people through a transformation. And so 2020 is when I did my first group coaching program. It was a success. And then I did it again and again and again.
Wow, so cool. I so relate to that feeling of like I was just always coaching before I even knew what coaching was.
Right.
I was all my best friend's coach. Um, yeah, beautiful. And so you moved to Ghana, but where were you living at the
In
time?
Belgium.
Oh, in
Yeah, in
Belgium.
Belgium,
Okay.
in Europe. So that's where I'm currently based as well.
Okay, very cool. And yeah, it's so funny. I was literally hosting a retreat in Costa Rica the week of March 12th, 2020, when the world shut down. And
Wow.
it was one of those moments where it was like, thank goodness I'm on retreat in a bubble with some amazing other humans, but also like the craziest week. We like didn't know if we were going to get back into the US. It was crazy, but yeah, I really appreciate that kind of gathering of women and that
Mm.
space. And yeah, the mission of transformation and support and growth with other people who I think often feel like the odd ones out or often
Mm-hmm.
feel weird, right? And
Mm-hmm.
sometimes it's hard to put a like finger on like why do I feel different? It's not that I don't have friends or it's not that like I don't fit in, but there's something, it's that internal knowing and like
Yeah.
motivator, I think, where you're like, I think I'm here for something important,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. So okay, so you started gathering people in different ways, and then started coaching. And how did the concept of work-life harmony come about for you as you were starting the business? It was pandemic, you started having kids. Like, how did that evolve? Because I love your phrasing of work-life harmony rather than just balance.
Yeah, yeah. I think it evolved naturally as well. Just as the niche I chose and the women I work with, many like me at the time were working mothers. And so it meant, having a 9 to 5, juggling kids, and a lot of my clients also going through a burnout because of that, because of juggling so many things at the same time. So I realized that there wasn't just one way of doing things,
Mm.
and that it was important for women, for humans, to just take back control of what it meant to be successful and how they wanted to lead their lives and also run their businesses, and that there were different ways to do it. You could run your business in seasons, and some do launches and some don't. And it really resonated with me, the idea of doing things on your own terms, and also going with the seasons of life and the phases of life. I have transitioned as a person many times through careers, through relationship, countries, moved abroad, and all of that. And we all do. But very few of us take that into account when we're planning our lives and businesses, as if we're going to be the same forever, And
Yeah.
so that is where this work-life harmony idea comes from. Obviously, I did not invent it. Other coaches use this, I would say, framework or way of doing as well. But for me, it wasn't that way that I looked at it. How can we build businesses that are aligned with our lifestyle versus, oh, that's my business and that's my life? And also, even just in my personality, prior to even just coaching, I just looked at, wouldn't it be nice for you as humans to just be who you are all the time and not to be a version of yourself at work and a version of yourself at home? And
Mm.
how could you be more yourself? And so even at work, in my 9 to 5, I was an advocate for that, for whether the way you dress or how you wear your hair, how you speak, the things that you are passionate about at work, and how that comes into play. Because I feel like even in the corporate world, a lot of people hide their hobbies from their colleagues, or it's like, oh, that's a little part of me that I don't want to share at work, or it has nothing to do with each other. But the point is, if as long as you feel comfortable sharing, I don't see why that's a problem. And I don't see why your corporate career couldn't evolve closer to, your passion, even within that setting of, corporate. And so for me, that's where I see the whole work-life harmony thing.
Mm. Yeah, I think that's a really common struggle too. And I know it's something that I went on a journey for as well. I'd never worked in corporate. I've always had my own businesses, but I still felt that separation of like, this is me behind the scenes, and then this is me doing business. And I think for me personally, it was a lot about I was starting out really young. I started my business
Mm-hmm.
at 21, 22. And so I
Yeah.
felt like I kind of had to put on a front of being professional because like I didn't know what the fuck being professional meant as a photographer. Like I was making it up, right? But I'm curious for you, like, do you feel like you just always had that ability to be authentic, or did you as well go through some kind of journey to feel like, okay, I can just be no matter where I am, just be myself?
I think I probably always had it in me, but I felt I learned to be a lot more comfortable with that. And one particular um, part of my journey, that, or something that happened in my life that allowed me to be more at ease and comfortable being myself, is my move to Ghana. So in 2012, as I mentioned, I packed up my bags and left to Ghana for what I thought was going to be 6 months. And I ended up staying there for 3.5 years, meeting my husband, getting married.
Wow.
Um, but being there taught me a lot about redefining yourself and rediscovering yourself as an adult. Mind you, when I moved to Ghana, I had a career here. I actually had even a boyfriend at the time. So it wasn't like I have nothing going for me and I'm just running away from my life or whatever. I had a
Yeah.
great career. So most people thought, what is wrong with you? Why are you leaving behind such a good life to go
Mm,
to Ghana of all places? They were like, really? Where is Ghana? Why are you going to Africa? Um, but for me, being there allowed me to learn a lot about my personality, myself, the things I enjoy, the things I didn't enjoy, things that I never had to think about. And I was
mm,
telling this on another podcast the other day, is that when you grow up somewhere, your friends are the people around you, the people you go to school with, your colleagues at work, people in your neighborhood, church, or whatever. they're kind of friends by default, by where because of your environment. You don't make your friends as much as you think you do unless you're very intentional with it. And being in a country where you know nobody, or maybe you know just one person, forces you to choose, okay, am I just going to be friends with this person because they happen to be my neighbor, or am I going to be friends with them because there's an alignment? I see things that bring us together, and I'm choosing to get to know this person better because I enjoy this and this about them. I want to learn this about them. And so for me, it forced me to do that for myself and be like, oh, that's odd. Um, I also have Ghanaian roots, so I wasn't completely lost. Luckily, I spoke the local language there, but I was still an outsider to many people. They
Mm.
could tell that I wasn't from there. And being a Black woman who was born in Europe and grew up in Europe, I'm a minority here as well. People will always say, where are you really from? Even though I've always been here. And so for me, the sense of belonging and being from somewhere, um, I was always from somewhere, but never really. And so being in Ghana kind of woke me up to, oh, wow, I can actually choose my identity. I can decide to be any version of a Ghanaian woman and any version of a Belgian woman that I can be. And so I fully embraced my multicultural identity. Um, and I think it set me free to just be who I wanted to be. To be that woman who enjoyed dancing with strangers at salsa parties, and someone who enjoys paint nights and has, a glass of red wine or whatever. And it was like, oh, wow. So this is who I am. And I don't need to shy away from it anymore.
That's beautiful. Yeah. Yeah. And embracing all parts of ourself
Mm.
is, I mean, I think kind of the whole reason that we're all here. Um, but yeah, what a beautiful journey. And it's so funny. I think it's, a common story, right? Of people are like, I had to go all the way back to my roots, or I had to go all the way across the world from, where I am to find myself, right?
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, the thing about travel, I think, is like it does force you to confront yourself, right? When
Yeah.
you're alone, when you're on your own, when you're in a new place, and be like, okay, how do I handle myself? Who am I? And yeah, what a beautiful journey that you went on to embrace who you are and meet your husband in a whole different country. Like, wow, that's
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing.
It was an
And
amazing trip.
yeah. And so what brought you back to Europe?
So when I got pregnant with our first child, my husband is Ghanaian American, and he had moved from the US to Ghana. I had
Oh.
moved from Europe, and it was like, do we have the baby here? Do we go to the US? Do you go to Europe? And we chose Europe because of the healthcare system. Is just, it is what it is compared
Yep.
to the US. And my mother was here. And so they were like, he was like, okay, you're going to need your mother as a new mom,
Mm.
more than you can imagine. And he was right. So we came here to have the baby, and then we kind of just stuck around. And yeah, now 3 kids extra. We bought a house, and then we settled here. We always had plans to go back, and we do go back often to Ghana, but we just, life just happened in a way. It's
Yeah.
easy to get back sucked into, I guess, life, the day to day when you have kids as well.
Yeah,
Mm.
totally. So now that you're a mom of three and you're homeschooling your kids, how do you create your work-life harmony? Like, how do you find time for yourself? How do you make sure that you're getting, the recharge time that you need, the time for your business that feels good, taking care of the kids? Like, what does your life today look like?
Yeah, yeah, and it's been a journey. So even as a coach, I think it's always easier to help someone else than to help yourself. That's why I think it's always going to be important to have a community or a coach or someone. As a coach yourself, as a business person, you always need to have that extra eyes on your business, someone else that has a different perspective. But it's been a journey because no matter what, you're always trying to fit a mold because that's how you're conditioned to do things. Like, oh, everybody else is doing that, I should be doing that. Or those other moms are able to do this, so I should be doing that, not considering what else they have going on in their lives, whether they have extra help, extra budgets, whatever.
Yeah.
So for me, what it looks like today is planning a lot. So I am someone that needs structure. I'm not like I love structure, but I need it to work. And so I embrace it. Like, okay, I put things in place to make my life easier. And so that looks like time for homeschooling is often in the morning only for me with the kids. We do a 4-day school week. So on Fridays, we're off. Friday free day is for us.
Nice.
Um, and we do only homeschooling in the mornings. So whilst they're doing some work, homework, I check my emails and do admin things because we're all kind of working with our books or computer.
Mm.
And in the afternoons, I can do things like recording a podcast, content creation. And most of my clients are either 9 to 5, so it's often in the evenings after their work time. So it's really scheduled in a way that works for me. And another thing that I do is to also look at my cycle. So I cycle sync. And this is something I've known for many years, but not necessarily implemented in my life. But as I've grown older, and also discovered, how my hormones work and all that, I realized that it's just better for me to do that, to stick to my cycle. And so I look at my calendar based on where I am in my cycle and say, like, okay, I'm going to be probably too overwhelmed then in my menstruation week. So maybe I should not have like 5 podcast recordings that week. So really looking at those things and making shifting, and I allow myself a lot of white space to be
Mm.
able to change my mind and say, you know what, I was going to do this, but now I don't feel like it because I'm tired or I have a headache or whatnot, and I'm going to move that. But also extra time, Friday's free day, and sometimes the kids have something, some play date, sometimes they don't. And I can work extra if I feel the need and I want to. So that's how I do it. And then with my husband, we try to schedule, our daytime in our calendar. Some people are like, oh, it's not sexy, but yeah, you plan it.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that so much. Even just having my one daughter, me and my husband had to adjust and be like, okay, we have to actually sit down and talk about our schedules every week because now we're not just two independent beings. We've got this other human. And yeah, planning is super helpful. And I'm on board with the structure as well. I think, I spent many years just working for myself and being in flow. And um, this year, I will probably have some more structure than ever before, just out of necessity, so that it's like, yeah,
Mhm.
I do get done what I want to get done, and I do have time to be present. And it's really like, actually, I was talking to my therapist this morning about like sometimes if we don't have dedicated time to have a conversation, it's hard to even find time to have a conversation where there's not a tiny human around, or like you have the brain power, right? Or
Yeah.
the energy. So creating dedicated space in your calendar for everything is like that's the way
Yeah.
to do it. Yeah.
I recently found out that I am not fully diagnosed yet, but that I have ADHD most likely. And it makes a lot of sense for my brain. I'm like, okay, if I do have it, then it explains a lot of things. And I read somewhere that it says, why do you want to force your brain to remember so much when you can automate and, plan things? And I'm like, yeah. So as you're saying, we, as humans, whether you have AD, you're neurodivergent or not, why do we want to do everything, like force our brain to remember and do everything? Why can't we just put things in place to make our lives easier?
Yeah.
What if you have to plan to have a date night with your husband? It may sound not so sexy, but it's sexy to have it, to have those
Yes.
times than to not have time for with your spouse. I think it's, yeah, we get into our heads sometimes and we sabotage ourselves. Like, oh no, let's just be spontaneous. But we don't realize that, you're not going to be able to be spontaneous if it's not planned and you have the time for it.
Yes, I think that's so true. A friend of mine once said that structure gives you freedom.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, oh, yes, because for sure, if I make my schedule too strict, I will rebel against it.
Yeah.
But if I don't have any structure, then yeah, it's like I don't even have the freedom to choose when to go off or take time off or be
Mm-hmm.
spontaneous.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, I love it. Um, and tell us what you're working on in 2025. What are all the ways people can connect with you? What are some cool things you've got going on this year?
Yeah, so I'm really excited this year to break down my signature program. I have a 6 months group coaching that I am breaking down into courses, standalone courses, to allow for my audience to be able to take what they need when they need it, because I can understand that not everybody needs the 6 month support or can have it based on timeline, budget, or whatever. And so I'm happy to be able to meet my clients where they're at through those standalone courses and other digital offers. And also just my community. I have a community called Inner Circle. It's a membership where we have, goal setting sessions. We have the accountability and support and get it done weeks, because I know that as entrepreneurs, there's so many things that we need to get done, but it's like we're putting it off because they're not so nice to do, but they're so, important to do. And doing it together gives you the momentum to finally tackle those tasks that have been just lying down. So those are two things that I'm excited about. And then my annual retreats, which I host every year in Ghana, the self-love retreat that happens at the end of the year in October. So I'm excited to take a group of women who want to, love on themselves and offer themselves their own honeymoon.
Oh, I love that. A self honeymoon. That sounds
Yeah,
amazing.
it
Um,
is.
tell us a little bit more. What do you guys do on retreats?
Yeah, so the retreat is a 1 week retreat, and we go to a luxury resort because I feel like women, we often don't want to give ourselves that kind of luxury alone. It's like, oh, let's do that with my partner. Let's celebrate an anniversary. But what if you're just going to celebrate yourself? And so that is kind of the whole theme of the retreat. And the idea is for entrepreneurs, for women in general, whether career women, but also entrepreneurs, to disconnect from their day to day of business and partner and kids if they have, and just dedicate a week to themselves. And so that is to re strategize, to focus on yourself, to really spend the time to do the reflection that you haven't had the time to do, whether it's where your business is going in the next few years, your life is going in the next few years, because we often don't have the mental capacity to just sit down and say, okay, so am I actually enjoying this? Is this a direction I want to go to or not? So we do a lot of self-work around strategizing, self-reflection. We also have yoga and meditation sessions in the morning, and lots of sightseeing around the neighborhood to discover, waterfalls, a beads workshop, and learn about the African culture as well there. So it's really a dedicated time to pour into yourself and to be like, wow, I can't believe I'm here just for me and meet like-minded women from all over the world. It's amazing. Yeah,
Wow, that sounds fantastic.
it is.
Beautiful. Okay, well, anyone looking for a retreat this year, definitely go check out Rosemary's website. Everyone can find all the information on your website.
Yes,
Yes.
they
Okay.
can.
Perfect. So we will have those links below. Go check out Rosemary's podcast, her website, her Instagram. So good to talk to you today. Thank you so much for sharing your
Thank you for
wisdom
having
and
me.
time. And is there any one thought or wisdom nugget that you would love to leave people with today?
What I would love to leave people with is that no business is the same. And so, as you are building your successful business, don't necessarily look at how others are doing it, but what it means for you to be successful. So, what are the things that you need in order to feel successful in your business?
Beautiful. I stand behind that recommendation 100%. And it was so good to talk to you, Rosemary. Everyone, go check her out, and I'll see you on the next episode. Bye. Hey, all, thank you so much for tuning in today. It would mean the world to me if you could subscribe, share, and leave a review so more people can learn about this work and access their true wealth. And if you'd like to continue your wealth work, please pop onto my email list so you can choose your own wealth adventure, whether that's applying for one-to-one coaching, accessing my DIY content, or staying tuned for upcoming wealth boosting programs. You can find all that at the following link, bit.ly/wealthypjs, PJS, bit.ly/wealthypjs. Join me there and let's get wealthy.